All right. Is it okay to start talking now?
Yep, go ahead whenever you're ready, Kate.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and thank you, Patty and Kirsten, for hosting the meeting and for the warm welcome. And thanks everybody for coming today. I wanted to start by just, I am on our farm in Rimrock, Arizona, and I'm gonna just do a quick pan because I think it's just important for you to see sort of our place. We are in the riparian habitat, 3,400 feet, right across from Beaver Creek. Our farm is situated on the ancestral lands of the Yavapai Apache, and their current tribal lands now are 600 acres over 5 different parcels in the Verde Valley. So we consider this a very special spot on the planet. And tonight I'm going to speak with you about the process that we undertook to build this pollinator garden. It's about almost I don't know how big it is, but you can see it's a slope with terraces and near the cicadas. But I wanted to just start the meeting by just allowing you to see some of the plants that are growing here, and the mirabilis, this is the one of my favorite grasses, the alkali saccaton. Of course, we have some butterfly bush, milkweed, fern bush, penstemon, datura, lots of ephemeral natives. I'm going to talk to you about the plants inside, but I thought we could start the meeting with the datura because it's one of my favorite things every day, every evening. Here's another little vignette here of the rosemary and the ephemeral California poppy. There's a little tobacco, our trellis. We have almonds, we have 20 fruit trees. One of my favorite things to do on the farm every evening is to watch the sacred datura open. As many of you know, sacred datura is a really wonderful native, in this case, a shrub. You can see it's enormous. And it is a night blooming plant. So it actually opens and the blooms only last for one night. So they put out a ton of nectar, a ton of pollen, and you can see the bees. Actually, these are bees that live next door to us, are eager to get in. And I want to just have us sit here. Hopefully you can see this. And oh my gosh, this is so special. We actually have a sphinx moth tonight on the hyssop right next door. And I can't believe how wonderful this is. This is the first sphinx moth that I have seen. And this is a plant that has a wonderful mutualism with the sphinx moth, because the larvae are the tomato hornworms, and the tomato hornworms are the giant green caterpillars that actually are the sphinx moth larvae. So they gain protection from eating this plant as a larval stage and as a caterpillar. And that actually, the alkaloids in the plant, which this is heavily laden with alkaloids, will then deter birds from eating them. And when they're in their full adult stage as a moth, they have a very long proboscis and they are able to reach the nectar at the very bottom of the tube. Look at this floral tube. So I think that's a really fun story. You can see the bees are climbing out. So I thought maybe that we would just start out by watching these datura open, and I'll sing you a song. This is a song that that I wrote about the sacred datura. I think we just have to remember that plants are magic. They're magical, and that's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to the plant world, is the magical, ethereal qualities that they have. So this is a song that I wrote about datura. Trying to get to that. At the end of the day, when the world takes its rest, the last sun fades away, you put on your best dress from a spiraling bud. Night wind unfurls your bloom, and the journey begins. Petals glowing like the moon. When I sit drink from your cup of life, everything transforms from darkness to light, surrendering into the unknown. I'll find my way home. Everything seeks your nectar. Dancing with the poison for pleasure and protection. Expanding our vision. There is beauty in change. Caterpillar into moth. Let go of what you fear the most. Trust that nothing is lost. When I drink from your cup of life, everything transforms from darkness to light, surrendering into the unknown. Let go and find your way home. Trusting this path So a couple nights ago, this plant had 25 blossoms open. The monsoon rains have been tremendous here, and the plants have been responding with vigor. I think one of the things that I love about having a pollinator garden is that there is always something going on. It's never quiet. There's a drama unfolding constantly, and it's constantly evolving and changing. And the way that you plant it, it never stays that way. It's going to change, and the plants will do what they want. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about being a gardener, is that we are in a co-creation with nature, with plants, with insects, with weather. And it really makes life very exciting. So one of the gifts of building habitat in your backyard is that you will always have something to do. You'll always have something wonderful to watch, and you'll always be learning, and you'll always be observing and responding. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love this work so much. Why I love the plant realm, because it's a very highly unique and evolving world, especially when you bring insects into the mix. So I think I'm afraid that we need to go on to the next part of the program. Otherwise it will be, but here's some of the unfurling daturas. There's already a beetle in there. So I'm going to turn this part of the program off and go to my computer so we can see some slides. And I don't have to compete with the cicadas anymore.
Thank you, Kate. That was really beautiful, and it's really fun to watch the bees going inside the flowers there. And thank you for singing your song. That was very lovely.
Okay. Oops. All right, hopefully now we can enjoy the second part of our program. Thank you for bearing with me as I try a very different approach to a talk. I just have just become a little bit more expanded my life with plants and my garden life. And I'm happy to be sharing that with you. I'm going to turn on one more light. I'm going to show you up close here. This is a bouquet that I designed this evening for the talk. It has a lot of the plants in it that we are going to be talking about. This is mostly a native bouquet, but it also has plants from the pollinator garden in it. Penstemon, leaves. It has tobacco flowers, datura flowers, hyssop, a hyacinth bean pod right here, and a little passion flower, and some love in a puff. So I am going to share my screen with you. Oh, wait, let's see. Let's go here first, and we'll go to. Okay, so hopefully, Kirsten, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you and we can see the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out. So I wanted to share with you tonight a little bit about the process, the journey that I've been on in the last year and a half. We purchased this land in January of 2020, and it's about 1 acre. And I have been evolving the mission here of Wild Heart Farm, which is to nourish body and spirit by connecting people with the beauty and wisdom of nature. So you can see a little bit, this is just my flower garden where I grow the cut flowers, the high tunnel. And let's see. On our farm, we grow basically like your grandmother's flowers, and we create floral arrangements for weddings. We have a weekly CSA as well as a monthly CSA at Wild Heart Farm Share annual, and then we do online orders, and we're working on getting some workshops together. So the pollinator garden, this is sort of the before and after photos from August 2020. And we actually began work on the garden exactly a year ago. And I've been amazed at how long, how much things have transformed. So you can see this is, we actually wanted to create terraces because we were on a slope, and this slope really couldn't hold any vegetation, and it was very compacted from bringing in a lot of fill dirt when they built the house. And so we wanted to capture water and build a plantable space. And so this is what it looks like today from that same view. So we brought in dump truck loads of rock and soil, and this is my friend Jeff Bowler from Plants for the People, who I'll be mentioning several times. He is a permaculture designer and a rock hound, and just a wonderful comrade of gardening. And so as well as his partner Molly McCormick, who many of you know as a longtime plant and ecology person in our region. And so we did this. He helped me a lot with this, and we also had Veterans for Hire, which is a group in Cottonwood that brought in
people who have come back from combat and are looking for work. And so we had a grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to be able to not only build and buy the plants, but also they helped us out by bringing in the veterans and Jeff for labor. We originally wanted to do the project with volunteers, but because COVID happened right around the time that we got the grant in May, I did not see doing all this work. There was no way we were going to be able to do that with the public. So hopefully going forward, I would like to host gatherings and workshops here to learn more about building soil and taking care of native plants and growing gardens, because that is my passion. But you can see that even the transformation from April is about when we put our drip irrigation system on, which was a transformative part of the plants becoming established. The temperatures here are very extreme. We have about a month and a half to 2 months where, well, last summer it was over 107 for a month straight. And this summer has been a lot better, but it's been really humid and hot. So over 100 at least for 2.5 months. And then we get 20-degree, at least a month to month and a half of 20-degree lows in the winter. So we're sort of zone 8, but I'd say we're probably like zone 7B in some ways as well. So these are a couple more views of the garden, but really the garden was really fabulous for me, because as a flower grower and production farmer and florist, it's really difficult to make these decisions to allocate your land for the benefit of pollinators. And I think a lot of farmers who are in a production mindset are going to struggle with this. And the fact that we created permanent habitat on the farm is, to me, it really has helped me transform my values of what I do and what my business practice is, to reflect that this is the heart of what we do. Is, farms are tremendous habitat if we can plant the right plants. And so I want to talk a little bit about the plants that we selected. I have to say, of course, I am a huge proponent of native plants. However, our farm welcomes all plants. So we do have not just native plants in the pollinator garden. What we really wanted to look at, since we had so little space, is what kind of benefits does a plant bring? For me, I really wanted insectary plants that help balance out the pest plants, so they're top predators like surf wasps and different types of bees and those that will predate on things like aphids. Then, of course, butterflies, bringing butterflies, hummingbirds, native bees, and introduced bees, because we do have fruit trees, and of course we grow vegetables for ourselves. So we're trying to favor the native bees, but we do have neighbors that have honeybees. So we see those bees here all the time. And then specifically, we sourced and looked for plants that were the host plant for the monarch butterfly at all stages of their life cycle. So we were also, for our own interest, My partner, Mike, is a naturopathic doctor. So plants that have medicinal value are very important to us because we make our own medicine. And many of the plants that are native or pollinator plants are also good for people. And then for me, I'm really looking, I'm running a laboratory constantly for my floral design business to make that more sustainable and regenerative. So sourcing plants that require less water, that will grow, proficient, abundantly, and I can use them as a hardy greenery. So this is one of my experiments is, wow, if I can grow penstemons for greenery and I can grow native grasses instead of these introduced grasses that I'm afraid, they will become, invasive. Many of the plants that are grown in the nursery industry, in the horticulture industry, in the floriculture industry are not beneficial to pollinators. They're pollenless. And they, frankly, offer no value for insects. So it's important to me to be able to offer that on our farm. So here's Sacred Datura. This is my partner, Mike. Sacred Datura is one that I just had this as an example. It grows fast. It's a prolific bloomer. The deep green leaves, I've been experimenting with using them in some of my arches because they can actually hold up really well. They cover bare ground very quickly. And then the blossoming provides evening entertainment, attracts bees, moths, and of course, handsome men. And it's insanely fragrant. Like it just brings me so much joy every day to walk by in the evening, to walk by those plants. So native grasses, making a plug for native grasses because they are amazing. So often native bees nest in overwintering grasses. They grow really fast. They don't require a lot of water. They look beautiful oftentimes year round. Like the flowering stalks of grasses and the seed heads are beautiful. And then often that's food for birds in the winter. And they're great accents and fillers for your garden. And I love them in the floral design. Native vines are amazing as well. They're hardy and they're vigorous and they make little shade accents in your garden and they create these magical places for you to hang out. They often attract native insects and some of my favorites are wild clematis and hops, which also I like to use in the floral design. And there are many others. The honeysuckle is, the native honeysuckle is awesome as well. And then some non-native vines that I use in my, in my floriculture work, but it's also incredible. And for our medicinal use, but they also attract pollinators are the hyacinth bean, which we made a hummingbird tunnel with that from that my friend Fritz, who runs the Colton garden, has been making these and they're amazing. And so those flowers actually like turn into these pods. I like to use the pods in the flower design. And then the passion flower vine is a really wonderful medicinal plant. It's really great for kind of toning down the volume before bed. And then of course the ephemeral annual plants like Phacelia and California poppy that you can plant in late fall or early spring, and they come up, in the first flush of spring are, just amazing. And I have seen now in the post monsoon, they're starting another flush and they're going to bloom again this fall. So, and then I also have a big hollyhock hedge. The hollyhocks are just so amazing. The biennials like that, I love them. And then, we need to eat, the pollinators need to eat. We have a culinary herb garden as part of our pollinator that we let go, and I let a lot of my herbs go to flower and to seed. Like the sage brings in a lot of really wonderful insects and hummingbirds, and then the fennel in the middle is great, like small flowered multiple flowered plants like fennel and yarrow, and then this is cilantro. Dill are incredible insectary plants. Queen Anne's lace. I plant these as my sort of insectary areas, and turns out that like a lot of them are really great. The fennel seed, of course, is really a wonderful digestive herb. I like to use these when they're in this stage in bouquets. They smell really fragrant. Coriander seed, of course, is delicious. These are edible. Many of our culinary herb flowers are edible. And then like for shrubs, I mean, there's just so many wonderful native shrubs that have multiple, ways to enjoy, like Artemisia ludoviciana, the wormwood is got to be one of my favorite shrubs, hands down. It's so beautiful. It has this lovely color, and it's got these very small flowers. It attracts little insects, and it's very hardy. So I use it as a greenery. It's also, we put it in our bitters for digestion. Rhus aromatica or trilobata, it's great. In the spring, it's one of the first bloomers. And then those berries then are available. Same with elderberry in the fall. The fruit for birds is really important. So one of the things we have to think about when we're planting habitat is, that who are you attracting? And, for me, I really do. We are in a tremendous bird habitat because of the riparian trees, and we have mulberry trees, and then we have 20 fruit trees, and we have hackberry and walnut trees. So these trees are just amazing. I mean, we had 2 different hummingbird nests. We had tanager nests, cardinal nests, and they stay here year round. So there's food, and part of the food that's really important for birds is caterpillars. That is a good, nesting, for their nestlings. They need to eat like hundreds and hundreds of caterpillars. And so speaking of caterpillars, we have, probably, our gardens being habitat, can really make a difference to declining species like the monarch butterfly. Monarchs are in, serious decline because of loss of habitat and pollinators in general, using Roundup and other chemicals that are toxic to bees and to butterflies, just losing habitat to parking lots, and of course like fires and grazing, and sort of the ongoing impacts that we've made on our natural lands, our wildlands, have made it difficult for pollinators to adapt, and climate change is even more difficult because of the blooming cycles that plants experience, and pollinators, they need to be timed, they're coinciding with their migrations. And so with the monarch, we are planting their host plants, the milkweeds, and we have 4 varieties of milkweeds, and I'm experimenting with growing my own milkweed. And then we have so that's their host plant, which, they lay their eggs on the leaves, on the underside of the leaves, and then they then form their chrysalis, and then their caterpillars eat the leaves, and leaves are toxic to, they have a lot of that latex sap, which is makes them kind of unsavory, to birds. And then in their adult stage, they need a lot of nectar. So the nectar, and for us in Arizona, one of the most important things is, the fall blooming asters. So nectar plants in the fall when they're making their migrations back south to be able to fuel that journey. It's just tremendous to me that there's a butterfly that makes that migration. So, I spoke a little bit about the reasons that pollinators are in decline, but I mean, the important thing, is that, our practices and our gardens can really help, even the smallest efforts that, you can make on your cul-de-sac, or in your neighborhood, your kid's school can really help. I really am trying to learn as much as possible about native bees because there are 20,000 species in the world. We have 1,700 just in Arizona. And we have about 3,400 species of plants in Arizona. And so you can see that, our native plant diversity is directly correlated to our bee diversity. And so there's one thing I have learned that the goldenrod, solidago, is one of the most important species for attracting bees, native bees, as well as I plant lots of yarrow and other things like that. Another thing that I think most of you already know, but shopping for your plants, finding plants that are local is really important. So buying your native plants at the Arboretum or from local growers like myself and Plants for the People, where, we're growing plants that we've saved our own seed, or we've collected it from the area. I have a permit with the Forest Service to be able to collect a certain species of plants that I am trying to grow for this area, so that people can have more locally adapted plants in their yards, because it cuts down on water. I mean, some of these plants like the gaillardia, the blanket flower, and the California poppy, and I mean, all these plants, it's like they just datura. I mean, they're going to grow they might need to get established with water, but they don't need a lot. And that is what we need, is like, we want people to feel successful. So, I can't encourage more that we just need to save seeds, let our plants go to seed and dig up those plants and share them with other people. And so I've been reading, I read this book last winter called Nature's Best Hope, which is by Doug Tallamy. And I really encourage you to look into Doug Tallamy's writing. He is an entomologist, and he just writes amazing books about if you wanted to kind of do your own habitat. And I've learned a lot from him. His most recent book is all about how we have the power to really help with the fact that our national parks are not going to cut it. It's not enough habitat, and it's fractured. And so in order for us to really keep the species diversity, biodiversity, intact, we need to do more in our urban interfaces in our yards. So if we restored half of our lawns, like everyone restored half of their what was lawn with native plants, we could create 20 million acres of habitat, a homegrown national park, which I am committed to doing. I'm committed to sharing this, and I am working on my own native lawn experiment with, it's not all native yet, but it's got quite a bit of native grasses and yarrow, and then I've added clover and some other species to try and cut down on just what would normally be Bermuda grass in my area, so we can really have something that encourages even soil microbes. So that's all I really wanted to share. I wanted to leave some time for us to be able to discuss and take some questions. So hopefully we can invite folks back in and we can have a little discussion. Maybe people want to talk about what they've done in their yards or challenges they've had, or if you have great resources to share.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers.